Hello, beautiful beings, and welcome to another episode of Bridge of Light. Today, I am absolutely delighted to meet with my friend Tamara, who I know as the Cosmic Wanderer from Instagram. We've spoken quite a lot on there, and she's someone who has lots of similar passions to my heart, music being one of them, and obviously, we're both very spiritually inclined. And I just love some of your messages and your connection to nature and so on. So I'm really pleased that you're joining me today. So we'll just jump straight in, and I'll let you kind of introduce yourself and talk to me about your spiritual journey, really. Did you have an awakening? Was it something you've always had? Was it a remembering? Tell me your story.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Kat.
My pleasure.
Likewise with everything you said about me. Likewise to you. Yeah. So, my awakening journey. To me personally, I feel like it have been many events in a way, and it's still ongoing as well. I personally don't come to a point where I don't necessarily see awakening as like this one and done thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it is different for everyone. That's also the thing, right? So I can only speak from my experience. So for me, it feels like it's an ongoing theme and an ongoing path of self-discovery, really, and becoming more conscious of yourself, your hidden patterns, and all that. And I do believe, there is an initial spark where this happens in your life. Usually either from, some type of trauma or some type of breakdown or some type of inner conflict that just erupts and that you have to tend to. And then, well, because of that tending and that taking the time, you start to see the world a little bit differently. You start to see yourself a little bit differently. And it's this discovery, really, like, oh, wait, but what am I, or who am I, or who do I want to be, or who have I been all this time, actually? And why did I feel like I had to be this person, or is it actually who I am, or is it actually who I want to be? So kind of like this existential crisis, you can say.
Yes, definitely, yeah. We've all been there.
And I think that's just a very natural course of things as well. Like if I look at my own journey, it kind of happened like that, right? I was kind of in this automatic space of just just living and having to deal with all these things, with school, with work, with kind of not knowing where I wanted to go with everything, but you kind of cling on to everything on the way, because that's what you do, right? You gotta make a living, you gotta find a place to work, you gotta have an education. So it was all this jumbled up stuff, and at some point, well, it kind of got to a point where it kind of like broke or something, like the existential crisis kind of came about. And there were multiple points in my experience where it wasn't necessarily this one break. It was kind of like what's the word for it, gradual, right?
Yes,
it's kind of a gradual thing for me, that I was like, oh wait, there were a few points that I wasn't necessarily conscious of at that time, but if I look back now, I'm like, those were kind of moments where I started going a little bit deeper, going more a little bit within myself, asking these questions more, going more in depth of what is existence, what is this about, and what's my place in it. And it all gradually evolved to the point of this year, beginning of this year, to me really was the kind of culmination of everything coming out and me becoming the Cosmic Wanderer on Instagram. I felt this push to kind of get out there and do the things I do now, which is totally new for me and totally out of my comfort zone from the person I used to be. But I feel like it's a pull, really. You're being pulled towards where you need to be. And I'm starting to see that I don't necessarily need to know before I'm being pulled to that place where that's going to be, or how to get there, or what I need to do to accomplish that. It's a really I it's feeling like you're being pulled towards something and you don't really know why, but you are curious and you're drawn to it for some reason, and you kind of get into it a little bit, and then all of a sudden things start making sense. You're like, oh, okay, I can do this or that, and you go from there, and it's a whole new journey of its own. So it's a continuous journey for me when I think about awakening. That's I can say about it. Yeah.
No, totally. I mean, I kind of liken it. They call it like taking the layers off the onion. It's like you kind of there's so many layers to it, and you peel one layer and you think, oh, that's it, I'm here, and then it's like, no. Hang on a second, and I mean, I think for a lot of people, people talk about these kind of awakening moments, but I think you're really right there when you say it is like, it's almost like the ignition spark. So you get this kind of one moment when you think, hang on, maybe there's something in all of this stuff, and that's really when the journey begins. And I think very much like you, it's there's this reality that we all have where we're kind of following and not necessarily aware of what the end goal is. I mean, I heard this beautiful analogy a couple of weeks ago, actually, that really stuck with me about this idea of people playing chess, and they were saying that if you go and watch a chess match, the two people that are playing the game know a long time before the audience who is going to win.
Right.
And it almost feels like that process to me. Sometimes I kind of want to get involved in the game, but yeah, exactly. But when you've got these kind of grandmasters, they know how many moves are left. They say, right, well, in 7 moves, this is going to happen. And as the analogy is beautiful, because it said, the longer the game goes on, all they're really doing is prolonging how long the game goes on, not really changing the end result. So, I think a lot of the stuff I see that you've done on Instagram that really is like me is because, is about this idea of just surrendering and just letting it happen, because I think we all have this impatience within us, it's like, yeah, but I want to be there now. And like, we get, as you say, kind of moments, tiny little moments of these visions of like, wow, this is how it can be. And it's so much about the journey. And I think that's what I love about the idea of you being the kind of cosmic wanderer, because I think that really comes across in your message about how important the journey is, and the process of surrendering and actually allowing it to happen, and enjoying kind of what's going on underneath, so to speak. We get so caught up in the end results, and I guess that's kind of part of this idea of the matrix itself. I'm not much into the ideas of competition. This idea that there's only one winner was definitely one of my downfalls when I was a younger woman. So I mean, that's a beautiful explanation of how it is. And I think it's really similar for a lot of people. So in that kind of sense about enjoying the journey and this idea that there is something bigger that's going on, I guess, we refer to that in our community, so to speak, as the Ascension. So how does that look to you? What does it mean to you, this idea of humanity ascending or awakening?
Right. So I love that question, because there's so many, talks about ascension, so many different perspectives as well. again, I also feel like that's very personal and very based on your own journey and what you can perceive about it and how it comes across. And for me, I think Ascension, it's largely explaining our collective evolution as a whole, and I'm not only saying humanity, because I'm recently also seeing that it's everything on the planet. Like, it's not only us humans, right? Because also kind of separating us again from everything, right? It's also a little bit of a separation mindset there. So I'm seeing it as the collective conscious evolution of our consciousness, and of our ability to perceive consciousness, and to our ability to become more aware, right, of ourselves, and the process of self-mastery, even to the point where you're not and it's it's the question is whether that's actually achievable. I see myself a little bit as a mad scientist sometimes, where I kind of dive into these things and I'm like, wait, but is this actually achievable? But to me, it's this self-mastery to the point where you're not being ruled by automatic processes or patterns, automatic patterns that are lodged into your subconscious, because we're all programmed. That's fact. You grow up and you're programmed a certain way, and the rest of your life is kind of backtracking a little bit, like, all right, is this actually the programming that I want to continue moving forward, express and create my world with? So to say, like, Ascension, to me, it's coming back. I don't see it as something out there. I see it as something within. It's also such a paradox, right? Because it's so double, because you want to go without, but it's actually by going within you change the stuff that's without. So it's coming back to yourself, and the whole process of that, to me, is Ascension. And then also not only the coming back to and the realizations and all that, but also the implementation of those realizations that actually change your behavior. And in turn, when you are able to change those patterns, your world around you is able to reflect that change back to you. It really is an inside job. So to me, that's kind of the Ascension journey. And as a collective, I do see, because we're all individually experiencing these shifts and changes, all on a different level, all on our own time. But there is also a collective shift, because more and more of us are coming to these realizations on a personal level, because we're all connected. So it's this domino effect, almost, this compounding effect, I hope, is happening, where, the more we hold ourselves responsible for our own individual change and our own individual evolution, the collective evolution will follow from that. Right? Because I do also feel like there may be a little bit too much emphasis on the collective evolution, or we have to change. And it's like, well, just, stay with
it. Stick with it.
Come back to your own progress and process and shift. And the rest will ripple out automatically. You don't, again, the surrender, again, you don't have to have so much hand into it.
Yeah. No, I'm, definitely part of my thing is I'm, a super geek when it comes to science and things like that. So, a lot of it for me is very similar. I kind of look at the idea of, string theory, that we are all those individual little strings, and it's the idea, like you're saying, it's a kind of inside job. It's like we're all tuning into the same note, really,
Right.
So, it's about, this process. I'm the same as you. I think that the more that we understand individual ascension and look our own kind of vibration and frequency, that we will all rise together. And I think there's, even in that, and I think part of where our messages, become similar is the idea that, a lot of people are out there trying to change people, and actually it's the idea of, changing yourself. And as I say, leading by example rather than dragging people across the thing, we're going this way, and I think it's a really powerful thing. So then on a kind of even deeper level, then let's go. Where do you see this process leading not just humanity, as we've said, but consciousness itself? What do you think will evolve from this process?
Love that question. That's an awesome question. So, I mean, I can only speculate, of course. So my view on that is that as more and more of us on an individual level go through this process, and I think we still have a long way to go, and we have all the time. That's kind of my I feel like we just, and maybe that's because I just, came onto being who I am now.
Yeah.
But I do feel, collectively speaking, we're just in the, maybe even like the first steps into getting this ball rolling on a collective level. So yes, there's a lot happening, but I only feel like we're in the beginning stages of it. And thus, there's just so much to explore still. Even on a personal level, I continue to come into new insights, come into new learnings, come into new, like the onion, right? The peeling away.
Yeah.
More and more and more. And that's, to me, that's beautiful, because that, we have the time. I sincerely think we have these cycles. We go through them in our personal lives, but in our collective lives, and these cycles will continue to just develop and continue on. So I do see a very positive view where, because we're learning to understand ourselves more, we also start to learn our place and our own ability to consciously create our reality, to the point where we are creators, right? But this is kind of something we, up to now in our whole evolution as a species, we haven't come to the point, or maybe we have in previous cycles, right? But for us right now, we haven't really gotten to the point where we're now able to see, like, okay, we're safe, right? We have all the stuff that we need, really. We can take care of ourselves. In general speaking, there's a lot of safety, right? So there's also safety to explore these topics a little bit more. And I think I digress a little bit, but where do I want to go with it? Like where I see it going is that, we're more and more stepping into our conscious creatorship. It's to this self-mastery, being able to consciously create instead of unconsciously create from a space of programming and a space of automatic responses and beliefs, limiting beliefs about who we are and what our reality is and what we should do in life and what life should look like, and more coming to the point where we are able to take the reins and to sit in the front seat of the car, right? Instead of letting ourselves get driven around and not knowing where to go and bumping up against each other and just like, total confusion. So again, this move towards conscious creatorship and to becoming the conscious creator you were meant to be. Now, what happens after that, I can only guess. But to me, that's for me, that's the current, how to say that, the current trajectory of humanity, or my own life, right?
Yeah.
So.
No. Yeah. I mean, part of this project is about, finding out basically, where people are at with this, because I think, as you said in the beginning, it's a different journey for everyone. And
right.
I mean, I just love hearing people's stories, but I think it's really important to understand that it is different for all of us. And as you say, it's this kind of collective, kind of consciousness awakening. So, as you said, there are many, many levels. And, I know personally myself, there's some stuff that if you'd have told me at the beginning of my journey, I'd have probably laughed you out of the room, like, oh my God, what is that? And now I'm like right in the middle of it, like, yes, this is brilliant. Like, it's like, I've got to a point where I'm kind of really comfy with my woo, so to speak, so, I think it's just really beautiful to see and to think about the ideas of, this evolution and how it will affect, as you say, everything. I think that's one of the great things that we do as humans is that, well, not the great things, but kind of one of the greatest issues is that we separate ourselves from nature, and we separate ourselves from, the other possibilities and realms and realities of who and where we exist, and I think, this idea at the minute, I mean, the kind of the matrix, as they call it, it seems such an overused word, but I think it is a good explanation, about this idea of people being able to live more freely and more, akin to their being as part of nature, as part of this whole. And for me, it's very much about putting out these ideas of how the world or the earth plane will look, when we've, as a collective began to ascend and reach this point, and putting those ideas out into the field. As you say, because there is a lot of fear around at the minute, there's so much, it's a health and safety nightmare on all levels, it's like, we have health and safety at work and things like that, but it's almost like that's on a kind of, oh, don't go there, don't do this.
Right.
So safety is such a massive, massive thing for people, to be able, as you said, to find that kind of space. And I know that that's something that you talk about a lot, and, really kind of, some of the stuff that you do is really lovely, the way it's worded. You can see where it comes from and feel that energy. So, I mean, that's why we're here. But, the beauty of it is, obviously, that's something that affects everyone, and it comes to us all. It doesn't matter how, enlightened you want to call yourself or whatever. We all have these moments because that is our humanness showing through. So, I mean, in that sense, it leads me on beautifully to my next question. So, what advice would you give to someone who feels that maybe that spark has just ignited, or perhaps they're just stepping out on this journey and, they're not quite sure which way to turn or what's happening or which layer of the onion they're on, so to speak? What really helped you when you first kind of came into this reality?
Oof. So many tips I can give, so many things to maybe, you want to take into account. But first of all, when you find yourself in such a space, honor it, right? Take your time, and take your time to really find out what resonates for you. And that might mean that you come across many different teachings, different leaders or people, like us on Instagram to follow or to connect with, or, whatever sparks something, whatever feeds that spark, whatever you come across that feeds that spark, go after that, because the more you feed that spark, the more it will ignite your own path. And and it's okay to have multiple streams of information, right? What would help me is what I'm trying to say. What helped me is to really get my hands on anything that kind of popped into my mind all of a sudden, right? Because I had a lot of inklings and knowings. I didn't know what they were, but I just started Googling stuff. Whereas I had a question about light, and I started Googling about light, and then come into contact with some scientific stuff about it, and then that sparked some remembrance in me, and I got a whole new information from that source. So this is the best time to have this, because information is at your fingertips. You can search up anything. You can buy books. You can go online for free stuff. There's so much out there. So go look what ignites your spark a little bit. The counter, there's polarities to everything. There's different poles. So do try to watch out, be mindful of not losing yourself too much in all that you find, because there may be so much out there that it can at some point kind of consume you a little bit, which can throw you off and confuse you, right? And that's not the point of it. That is not igniting your own spark and your own flame, right? The whole point of your awakening, from my perspective, right? Don't let me tell you anything, but from my perspective, the point of your awakening is for you to become conscious of the path that you want to walk, and the person you want to be, and the beliefs and information you want to consume, instead of getting pulled into directions that maybe start to dictate how you should do things or something like that. But it's all it's all your own. That's the kind of downside of too much information, right? There's fingertips, but you can buy books, but are you actually reading them? Are you actually implementing what you're learning? Are you actually using that information to give momentum to your own evolution, right? So that is one. The other is meditation, obviously. There's so many types of meditation out there. For me, the type of meditation that I use that worked well for me was just, no sounds or no guided, just sit with yourself, set a timer, 5 minutes, just, try to be within your own body, because I think we've been in our mental realms for so long. For me, it was really coming back into my own body. So just to even sit and feel safe within your body, and to allow whatever thoughts come up to just be there, to not necessarily say, oh, I shouldn't think of anything, right? But just to allow everything to be there and just watch it. And over time, you go to 10 minutes and 15 minutes and do this every day. And just as a type of moment of peace for yourself, and you'll start to see that you start to love that, and it will give you all kinds of benefits. But that's up for you to explore. But mostly, I guess that were my like the two biggest things, right? Follow your own flame, follow your own spark. What sparks something in you? Follow your own resonance, right? Start to figure out what resonates with you. Start to use your intuition. Start to meditate. Start to be comfortable with being in yourself, and just go from there. Let kind of go from there, right? Because that's kind of all you need to do, is just explore that field that you're in, explore it, experience it, but don't try to figure anything out, or try to force your course, or try to force to know something when maybe it's not time for you to know, right? You still need to first experience before you can know something or learn something. So allow yourself to go through that, instead of, again, going all mental into what's next, or oh, I need to do this or that, and then I will be this and that. It's like, enjoy, come back every time, come back.
Exactly.
Pace yourself. And I'm saying this because I was all impatient.
I think all of us are the same in certain terms. I'm yet to meet someone who will quite happily sit down and just wait for it to happen. When I do, I'll find out their secret and share it. So, I mean, it's really beautiful that you talk about, this idea of, really getting to know yourself, because I think we are so in a society that encourages us to follow a certain path, and I think this idea of right and wrong, this is the right way, this is the wrong way, is something that's so ingrained into us.
That's hardwired.
Yeah, like, am I doing right? Yeah. So in that sense then, you've talked about this kind of moments in meditation where we spend time with ourselves, and the thoughts kind of, they come wandering through, and I'm very much the same as you. I'm one of these meditators where it's not about stopping the thoughts, because that's it's we are still evolved beings. Something's got to be going on in there, but it's about witnessing them. It's about kind of not feeling like you're in the middle of it. It's more like a movie. So I mean, obviously in that sense you've seen certain moments. So when you're in that space, when you feel that you're within yourself, that you're in that safe space, there's those moments where we see that clarity. So what kind of does the light, the word, the light, what does that mean to you? How does that infuse itself into your reality?
The light. Yeah, I guess I would call it consciousness or awareness. And we're very polarized beings, which is, again, it's not good or bad. It just is the way it is. So I've been looking into like depolarization a little bit more, like the neutral way, the neutral path, right? The in-between path. So when we talk about light, the first thing that you think of is usually, oh, good, right? It's like, oh, it's labeled as something again. So I personally, the light, I see it as conscious awareness and just being, where the dark equally exists, and that is not necessarily negative. It's just unconscious, and it's the subconscious, and it's actually very beautiful, because that's where the magic happens. That's where our reality is actually created, through our subconscious mind. That's also something I've been looking more into lately, because as this journey unfolds, the spark will still be there, and you still need to feed that spark. So no matter if you've had an awakening, you continue to kind of, not search necessarily, but you will come across information and you're like, hey, I want to know a little bit more about that. So keep expanding. That's maybe like also a tip, right? Keep expanding yourself, because you will continue to naturally do so. So the subconscious mind, to me, is where a lot of the dark and the consciousness lies, where our programming is at, where our limiting beliefs is at. So working with it is, to me, also a crucial part in our whole evolution and our whole journey as a collective as well. Where the more light you are able, like the more conscious you can become, right? Talking about light, the more aware you can become of your own processes, because it kind of reflects back at each other. It's like one end of the polarity, right? You have the light and the dark, you have the conscious and the subconscious, and it kind of mirrors back at each other. How deep you can go into the subconscious is how vastly you've explored the conscious side, and how much more you can uncover, right? The unpeeling of the onion again. You expand kind of the conscious, and you're able to perceive more subsequently. Now, and to kind of combine them, because it happens unconsciously already, right? We're already creating our reality through all the beliefs. So I'm still kind of like, how far do you want to go with it? But it already happens. It's just about becoming a little bit more conscious of it. So I see the light as this consciousness that you're already a conscious being, but in order to become more conscious is becoming more conscious of those things that lie in the subconscious. So it goes hand in hand. It's like two sides of the same coin to me. Light and darkness, two sides of the same coin. And yeah, you need both in order to evolve. So to also not really shy away from what you uncover in the darkness, right? Because what's hidden in the dark, when it comes to light, you can make it yours, and it adds to your light. That's kind of, sometimes there's this rift against, it's light against dark, and it's like, no, it's the same. It's just two sides of the same coin. And you need one in order to expand on the other side. So I don't know if that
it's good. It's not an easy question to ask, but it's these discussions that help us all, really. The more I do these and I talk to people, there's always stuff I learn from it. I'm very happy in the fact that I've got to the point where all I know is I know nothing. But I think it's so fascinating to hear people's ideas and to be able to sit and appreciate the validity of everybody's opinion. And I know, there are certain aspects in all of these conversations that will, tick different boxes for different people.
Exactly.
And I think especially with the light, it's something that you say, once you kind of get that spark, it's almost like you're kind of dragged towards it. It's like, oh, what's this? And as you say, with the consciousness thing, as we discussed, part of this idea of, there is right and wrong. I think part of the whole process with the kind of consciousness is the idea that there is no right or wrong. It's just what you choose to illuminate with it. So I'm there with you on the fact that the light is really for me a kind of perspective, really, of how we choose to see things. And as you say, it's these two sides of the same coin, and I think that we forget that we are in fact the coin, rather than on either side of it, so as the coin, you can't have one side without the other. It's like, oh well, so so totally, it's and consciousness itself, is in a certain term. I feel the light. It's as we close down the structures of natural conscious evolution, that is what has, in a certain sense, not necessarily brought the darkness, but taken the focus away from some things that are fundamentally important to us as beings of light, So,
right.
And as I've said, kind of where I'm at now, it's like, you get to this point where you understand this whole process of being of light, and it's
and I love that with all I know is I know nothing, because that's also something I continue to come back to, and also with knowing thyself, because the moment I know myself, it's already kind of running behind the facts. It's already a new self emerged, right? Again with the onion, again with the continuous discovery, and allowing yourself to get to know yourself kind of every day almost. Like, you're not the same person you were when you woke up, when you go to bed at night, like physically, but also mentally, because you've had new experiences and all that. So this continuous curiosity and allowing your own beliefs not to become too set of a way, and because also I believe there is a truth to everything, probably, right? And to become neutral in the observations and perspective of to become neutral in what you perceive, because the moment you start to label it, I believe, starts to take away from what it actually is.
No,
and it can debilitate you in your life when you label everything as negative, or everything as bad or whatever. It starts to reflect that way. So it's such a neat trick. Almost, it almost feels like a life hack or hacking, right? it's such a neat trick to be able to switch it up and pull yourself back the moment, because we all do this. It's not inevitable. It's a continuous practice. But the moment you notice yourself falling back in some thought or belief of, oh, this is stupid that happened, it's like, wait, but was it actually?
Yeah.
And the whole reality kind of warps, your perception warps. And to me, you kind of laugh about it. Well, a second ago you would have been all grudgy about it, and like, it was a stupid thing or stupid me or whatever.
Yeah. And now you're like, oh, actually. Yeah, funny.
It's the magic, almost like how we are the ones that make reality the subjective thing. Like, we are the key to whatever change you want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, it's, I always remember, as a young girl, because obviously I'm brought up in, Chinese medicine background. And, we talk about the Tao, and the Tao is that which shall not be named. So it, the ancient Chinese spoke of the fact that, the minute that you name the Tao, the minute that you think you know what it is, it changes just by your perception of thinking that you know. It changes. So it can never be named. It can never be known because it's continuously evolving, as are we, So, I mean, on that statement, it brings me really up to this point, really, because, I mean, part of the thing with Instagram as well is that you do some lovely card readings, which are really nice, very intuitive, and that's the kind of work I really like. I've had a lot of readings in my life, as I'm sure of we all, but I really love the place that your readings come from, and I know that you're in the process of sort of setting up coaching programs and doing one-to-one sort of sessions and guiding people. As you've said, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but very much I think we are guides in this process. So for those that are interested and that have been listening to this conversation, just tell me for a couple of moments how people can get in touch with you, what it is that you offer, all that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, so if you want to get in contact with me, you can find me on Instagram at The Cosmic Wanderer. I'm currently kind of in the progress of reconfiguring a little bit my offerings and all that, so it will say that my books are closed. I'm also trying to set everything up with a website and all that. So my main contact is now through Instagram, and my main offerings right now are tarot readings, written ones that I do, so you don't have to be present, on mostly on what I love to do the most is to guide you in whatever you feel stuck right now, or whatever, if you're at a crossroads or you don't know where to go, or specifically those type of personal development readings, I guess I can call them. I love to do and love to aid you at. And the one-on-one sessions are, via Zoom or via Instagram. We can have a chat and do it like this in person, maybe also accompanied by a card reading or whatever I feel intuitively pulled for you. And yeah, as for my prices, currently they are on a donation basis. Pay what you can, according to your resonance, right? According to how it resonates or how it has helped you. I'm not sure how it's going to be in the future, but for now that's the case. And you can support my work through the link in my bio, because I'm holding a fundraiser for acquiring a beautiful handpan, hand drum, that I want to offer future sound healings with, or sound sessions, so I can also be of help through that.
Perfect. Well, that sounds very tempting, and as I said, I think you've got beautiful energy, so I would encourage people to come and talk with you and spend some time with you themselves. So it's just for me to say thank you so much for joining me today. It's been lovely to connect. I know we've had a few little conversations on Instagram, and I know that we follow each other's stuff, but it makes such a difference to be able to connect in this way. I get so excited about these things. Yeah, and it's just so lovely to be able and to have a beautiful, deep conversation such as this, you know. So I would just like to say to everyone that's watched, thank you for watching. We will be back with Bridge of Light in a couple of weeks. I would like to say a massive thank you to Tamara for taking the time, for sharing your wisdom with us. I'll put a link to your offerings when we put the post out. And from me, and I'm sure Tamara, we hope you have a most wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat.